On this episode, we had Paula Iwanski. Paula is the owner of the Art of Travel Company. She is a travel advisor that helps people find their dream vacation. We also focus a lot on how she helps small businesses incentivize their employees and their vendor relationships. It's a great episode. I know you're going to enjoy it. Please like and subscribe. Enjoy the episode.
Welcome to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. I'm James Groves, and along with my business partner, Bill Dement, we want to share our journey as small business owners with you. As owners of Hole in the Wall Drywall Repair, we will attempt to peel back the curtain of owning a small business in the trade service industry and talk about the many adventures of owning a small business. Hey, Bill.
Morning, James. Looks like you've done it again.
Huh?
You found somebody to bring in to be on our podcast. And I am telling you, just in the pre-show, few minutes, never met this person before. The energy is off the wall. And I literally joked to you, you offered this person coffee.
Listen.
Like you gave them another coffee.
Yes.
But it's going to be good because smart, excited, passionate people are the kind of people we love hanging around.
Absolutely. And I've known Paula now for probably almost a year. And she's been in my BNI group, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'd love to introduce our guest today, Paula Iwanski. Paula, our fans love you. And she's the owner of the Art of Travel. She is a travel specialist, concierge. I hate to call you travel agent because that's not what you are. You're above that. But welcome to the show. You got an amazing background. You provide an amazing service now. And I'd love to learn more about you.
Well, good morning, and thank you so much for having me. Actually, I'm a travel advisor, as we say.
Advisor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The difference is travel agents are more transactional, and a travel advisor is trained to be more consultative. We get to know our clients, and we recommend destinations and experiences they may never have thought about for themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're an expert in that because every time I talk to you, you're traveling somewhere. You're always in Italy or someplace else. So you just have an incredible knowledge for just what people like to experience. And not just the typical, sandals resorts or river cruises, but like those niche things that are hard to find. You've got like an in to all those places. So that's really kind of a neat thing you bring to the table. So
We always say that we connect people to the unsearchable.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. Dig it. Well, what led you here? You've got such an immense background. I know you, and I know a little bit about your background, but, our audience doesn't. And you've got such a unique experience that makes you, we talked about it before we were on air, but the layers of who you are have created this being of who you are now. Like where you came from, the experiences you've had. So why don't you just kind of catch us up a little bit? Give us a little rundown of kind of what brings you into this travel world.
So I started off after I graduated from high school. I went to college like most people do because that's what, you're supposed to do kind of thing. And it just wasn't for me. I wasn't really feeling it. And one thing that was really, truly calling me was to join the United States Air Force. I always loved airplanes. And so I decided, you know what? I did the college thing for a couple of years and I went to a recruiter. I told no one. I didn't even tell my parents. I didn't tell my best friend. I just decided that this is what I was going to do because I didn't want anyone to talk me out of it. So I went to see the recruiter and I didn't tell anyone in my family or any of my friends until I actually signed on the dotted line. So they couldn't talk me out of it. And I started off in the Air Force being an air traffic controller. It was a really incredible experience. Because even though I couldn't fly the A-10, which would be my dream, I could at least tell it where to go.
Yeah.
And I also needed some things. I needed to learn some things. I needed to learn when to speak up and when to shut my mouth. And that taught me very quickly.
Yeah.
And I also, just that accountability, being part of a team, understanding leadership, all of those things, being on time. I'm never late now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I started off there and joined the Air Force. And then I did just one tour. And when I got out, I went to work in the corporate world for Loctite Corporation, which a lot of people may or may not know Loctite, but Loctite was, they made super glue. And, when I interviewed, he said to me, what do we do here at Loctite? Well, we make goop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I started in training, kind of worked my way into marketing and, had a career really in the corporate world. And I eventually went in to be the marketing manager for Savage Arms, which was a rifle company. And actually, when I went for the interview, I answered an ad in the newspaper,
Right.
which it's interesting. And they called me for the interview. I thought, I better learn what these guys do. So I started looking them up because I thought, I don't know, Savage Arms. It didn't sound like a rifle company. Well, sure enough, it was.
Sure.
And I beat out many people in the industry. I mean, they took a chance on me, but as Al Casper, who is just retired as their CEO, said, he just felt I had a fresh perspective and that I could handle the industry. And I'm always grateful to him because we're dear friends to this day.
Well, Savage Arms is a very, very popular brand. I mean, being a firearms guy that I am, they've been around a long time.
And I started with them right when they joined. When they developed the AccuTrigger.
Uh-huh.
And I kind of went into industrial marketing. So I went to Loctite. I went to a company called Bomber Electric, which was a precision sensor company. So I understood when I joined Savage Arms, I understood more about the equipment on the factory floor and all this, the engineering that goes behind a product. And so when I started, I knew more about that than I really did about guns. I mean, I shot a gun in the Air Force and all that, but I really understood the significance of their design, which was the AccuTrigger was a first of its kind adjustable trigger. One of the things being in marketing that I did, they had never had anything in a design magazine. And I had, with my history in marketing and working in public relations, had reached out to Machine Design because I understood the significance of this design to the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Triggers have been the same way for years and years and years. And so have stocks, and a gun is a gun is a gun. I mean, they can only make it so, they can make the stock out of something different or whatever. And so I ended up getting them a feature in Machine Design about their design of the actual AccuTrigger, which was huge accolades for them. And then, of course, they went on to be as successful as they are now. But it was really quite the experience to be part of something, so groundbreaking.
Right.
And from there, I then, because I was in charge of marketing, and one of the things I used to do was the media plan to decide where to advertise. I would advertise in Field and Stream, an Outdoor Life magazine, which was a fishing and hunting publication. And I was working for them and had the opportunity, but when I was working for Savage, I had the opportunity to go to work for Field and Stream and Outdoor Life. So I went in on the sales side. And so I went from being a marketing manager that everybody called back to the salesperson that no one ever returned their phone call for. Mm-hmm. So as I always say, I went from, to the dark side. But one of the things that was important to me, and I said this to my publisher when I started, I said, is that I want to be the sales rep that I always wanted. I understand what these guys go through on the marketing side and what it takes to do what they do. And so I will never sell them something just to sell it. I will sell them something that I feel makes sense for their business. And so I had a very successful career with Bonnier Publications. When I first started, they were owned by Time Inc., and then Bonnier purchased them and became basically an enthusiast title company. So we always used to say that if we connect people to their passions, and I would say that if we connect people to their passions, then travel is mine. And so I kind of utilized Field and Stream and Outdoor Life to be able to travel, because being in sales, I could take my top clients on like fishing trips to the Bahamas, and living in Connecticut, I could go in like February.
Yeah.
And I remember asking my manager, Greg, I said, when I first started, I said, so you mean to tell me that if I want to take everybody fishing in the Bahamas and I want to go in like February, March, I can do that? And he said, yes. And I said, well, I'm going to love this job. And so I traveled the world. And one of the things that, I moved my way up to within the company to become head of the, U.S. sales team on the endemic side, and moved my way into different brands because I was known to be the closer. I was also known to clean up a mess. I loved a mess, and I loved to organize it and straighten it out. And so as I was traveling around, people would reach out to me, via social media or text me and say, I want to take my family on a vacation and I want to bring my parents. Where would be a good place for me to go? Or I want to take my wife on a surprise anniversary trip. And so because I really knew them, I knew who they were, I then would recommend a spot that would come to mind for me. And then they would come back to me and say, that was the best trip we ever had. We loved it. We never thought of going there, but that was excellent. That our family said it was one of the best vacations. And then being in sales, I was kind of like, well, why shouldn't I be making money from this? So I actually looked into buying a franchise, but I didn't find anything that really fit me. And so as I was working at Bonnier, my manager, who I had worked with in the Field and Stream side, he kept moving up in the company. And I wasn't working directly for him at the time, but I loved him and wanted to go back working for him. And he called me, he says, I think I figured out a way for you to come back to work for me. He said, I'm going to be inheriting this brand called Saveur Magazine. And Saveur was a culinary travel magazine for very affluent people who loved to travel through the eyes of food. It was well renowned by chefs all over the world. So if your recipe was in Saveur, it was considered a great honor. And so when I kind of jumped into that role, they said, we have this partnership with Virtuoso and we have no idea what it is. So they said, here, we're going to give it to you. And you with our director of marketing, you guys figure this out. Should we keep this? Should we not? So they sent us to Virtuoso Travel Week, which is what they call the Fashion Week of Travel. It's actually every year in Las Vegas. It's about to come up in the next couple of weeks. And it's the best of the best in travel. So the best travel advisors, the best luxury travel brands in cruises and hotels. I mean, it is just the cream of the crop when it comes to that. And so they sent us there, and I was like, with Saveur Magazine, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like if I was going to do travel, I'm going to do it for these guys or nobody. And so fast forward a few months, like 6 months later, I'm kind of sitting in my living room and I pull out my laptop and I decide, I wonder if they have any positions open, just curious. And I see this ad and it says, do you have what it takes to be a Virtuoso travel advisor? And I literally said, okay, I'll bite. So I clicked on it. I filled out like this essay questionnaire, and it was very detailed, like name a trip that you've planned recently, tell us all about it. It took me 2 hours to do this. And then I forgot all about it. And in November of 2016, I actually left Bonnier for personal reasons, family. I had some things going on in my family and my personal life and decided to take a break and figure out what it was that I wanted to do next. My daughter was about to go in the military. So it really gave me a sense of what do I want to do? And travel was just always this calling to me. And so I left, and like within a month, I get an email from Virtuoso and it says, congratulations, we've paired you with an agency out of Ormond Beach. It was a small mom and pop shop called Odyssey Travel. And they were just, a great start. I mean, just excellent. And I signed up to do their travel course, and I had a sale before I even started going to school. And that was in 2017, and I never looked back. And so one of the things was in order to do that, I had to have a business plan. So I knew how to create one of those. And so now for the last, since 2017, I've been making travel dreams come true for people.
Now, do you still work with the Odyssey people, or are you on your own now?
No, so now I'm 100% on my own, the Art of Travel company. One of the things is that it's important in the industry, especially because I'm a small boutique owned, veteran owned business, is that you have to have affiliations, because otherwise you're just you. It helps you on with all of your connections. As we know, connections and network is important. So the backbone of our business is to be hosted. So my host agency is called Montecito Village Travel out of Santa Barbara, California. And they are the best host because they provide all the back end support for me. So that's on the accounting side, vendor support, They're just absolutely wonderful, but they let me be my business, and they come to me to say, hey, how can I help you? Or if I need help, I can go to them. So it's a tremendous network. They're also Virtuoso. So that helps, I have not only the Virtuoso network and all of my connections there, but also with Montecito Village.
Did you know that there are over 140 million homes in the U.S.? 97% of them have walls and ceilings that are built using drywall. The drywall repair industry is simply enormous, valued at over $13 billion a year. We're hole-in-the-wall drywall repair, and for years we have been perfecting the art of repairing drywall, developing and refining our systems, and strengthening our brand. Our business model is simple, scalable, and easy to learn. We believe it's a real game changer. We are successful drywall repair pros who decided to take our repair business to a higher level, growing both our franchise training and support to industry-leading standards. You'll benefit from our vast experience helping your franchise hit the ground running and achieve success quickly. We'll give you access to our marketing team that has created strategic programs designed to get your phone ringing and booking new business fast. Join a fast-growing leader in an exciting dynamic segment of the home service industry by franchising with hole-in-the-wall drywall repair. Start building your own business and securing your own financial future today. What's like your typical client? What are the type of people you're looking for? You're not looking for the guys who are looking for the 3-day carnival cruise. You're looking for somebody who wants an experience, right?
Yes. And so my ideal clients are actually kind of created from what I came from, because being in sales, I was, and working with marketing. I was dealing with the C-suites of the company, the senior level executives, the senior level management. And these were people who have really demanding jobs. They had kids at home. Some of them are taking care of aging parents, and they love to travel and they have the money, but they just really don't have the time. And so the best part is they get to collaborate with me on where to go. And sometimes they have no idea. They'll just call up and say, hey, I want to get out of here. I've got 5 days. Where can I go? And we talk about it. And then I recommend something and I put it all together. But all they have to worry about is what to pack. I do all of the details, and they get to decide where to go and the fun stuff of what they're going to do when they get there. But they don't have to even think about what to do on how to put that together. And so that's like on the leisure side. But then one of the areas in which I've been kind of like trying to grow my business, and that sort of fell into my lap naturally, is also incentive travel. Because a lot of these are those senior level C-suite executives who are working on trying to incentivize a sales team, or they're looking at incentivizing employees, and then being able to, if they have corporate retreats, or sometimes they take people outside of the office to do a year review and a strategy going forward, and getting everyone out of the office and away from email in a whole different environment really helps to foster creativity so they can get those kind of, can get that done.
Yeah, there's got to be, as a business owner, we're always trying to find ways to reward our employees. We're trying to find, we do a bonus here, a gift card there. Maybe you can, at the end of the year, you win a tool set or a raffle or a TV. But trying to find a way to even build rewards of some flavor during the year, whether it's for our employees or for even our referral sources, right? It's one of those things that we've never really tackled well here. This is kind of why I picked your brain even a year ago when we first met. Share with us how you would help a company like ours build some sort of program for our other employees or our vendors.
Well, one thing that comes to mind, and we talked about like initially before, we started this today, is that I had a client that I worked with, and he said, I'm tired of giving away, TVs at our company Christmas party. And I said, well, why not give away a trip? And he was like, really? I never thought about that. Like, how would that work? And I said, well, we can fix it so we can make it a set date, and, where they travel, they leave on Friday, they come back on Monday. We can pick a hotel that will be, these employees were also manufacturing. So you don't want to put anybody in a Four Seasons. They wouldn't feel comfortable, but like maybe a nice Marriott on the beach or something along those lines. And so we talked about he could give them a Visa gift card to cover the cost of some of the meals. And with me, a lot of my clients, some of the preferred partnerships we have with our hotel partners provide breakfast for two daily, $100 resort credit. So some of those amenities, checking in early, checking out late. And, so we talked about that and making sure that it was a place people could get to easily. And we talked about, well, what do you want the scope of the trip to be? Do you want it to be a long weekend or a week? So just asking the right questions and then, going out and doing that research and saying, okay, here's what it's going to cost. And then, that is something that I do with a lot of companies to really help them develop the right program for them, because like a small business isn't going to want to take their entire, everybody away on a week-long vacation to Hawaii. That's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we look at all inclusives, or we look at just something simple as a staycation. You and I have talked about that here in Orlando. We have so many amazing hotels, and all you got to do is go 20 minutes or a half hour away, but you get away and you feel like you were on a vacation, even though it's in the same town. And so it's just a couple of nights. And those are the kinds of things that we can develop, or that I help develop, so that it's the right fit and it controls the costs, and it's also fits their style. Because something that works for a small business, a large business is not necessarily going to work for a medium or a small size business.
I love this concept. I think that it's a great idea. And I'm thinking with Bill and I, how are we going to ever include this in our business? But I know there's a way out there somewhere. What's a good place for someone to start who like we don't just have any idea that how to make this happen. So if I hadn't met you, I wouldn't quite sure how to make it happen. But what's a good place to start? So we don't have a ton of money, but we want to make sure we say thank you to the key people in our business occasionally. I like the staycation idea. I like maybe a small getaway, St. Augustine, the beach, whatever. But what's a good place to kind of start? What are some recommendations for us to kind of do something like that?
Well, I think, again, it's just understanding the size of your business, the scope of your business, and what you're trying to do. Right? Are you trying to incentivize, where you're trying to motivate a team to reach a goal, or are you just trying to reward an employee? Now, it could even be something as simple as, I had a company that I was working with that gave reward travel to employees who had been there for longevity. So they gave them a certain amount that they could utilize towards travel, because this particular company was out of the Midwest and they wanted to be able to, these people have never traveled, but the CEO was big on travel, and he felt like people benefit from getting out of their hometown and seeing the world. So, he, for 5 years, instead of here's your pin, your little pin to say thank you, or a statue, right, he wanted to give them a travel reward, but he's not going to give out his credit card information to an employee. So they would reach out to me. I would help them to design something that was appropriate for their individual budget. And then let's say the trip was $2,000 or $2,500, and the company gave them, $1,500. Then I would just, charge the money, and then the employee would pay the difference. So it's something like that. It's really just having a discussion is how you get started. Like, if you know that that's something that you want to do, and then finding someone like myself that's, specializes in incentive travel to talk about what is the best program for you and how to get started.
What are some of the hot things going on right now? What are some things that excite you about travel?
There is that's a question I might have to think on.
Well, you just got back from a couple crazy trips.
Yeah.
When you went to Italy just a little bit ago,
I did
right?
go to Italy, and that really was an amazing trip, because Italy has been so off the charts since COVID.
Right.
Everybody, it's been number one. But everybody it's super crowded. Rome is crowded, and Amalfi is insane. And so this was destinations within Italy. I mean, I did go to Florence and I did go to Rome, but mostly for airline purposes, because they're easier to get in and out of. But all of the locations that I traveled to were not necessarily, they were off the beaten path. Like we went to the Tuscan seaside, and we stayed in the Tuscan countryside, pardon me, in little towns that were like walled medieval towns with 1,000 residents. I mean, so it was definitely off the beaten path and something different.
How'd you find those places?
Well, in this regard, it was a partner. So one of the things that we have with kind of my secret sauce is in my network, we have what we call on-sites. And so on-sites are destination specialists, and they live in the destination or have lived in the destination and travel there extensively. For example, if I'm doing Thailand, a lot of the team that I work with would be maybe in New York, but they constantly travel to Thailand and they live there at one time. So they really know the ins and outs of that particular country. And so in this particular case, one of our on-sites had put together a Italy educational trip for us travel advisors that was taking us around to some of the properties that they represent and showing us a different side of Italy.
So, I mean, you've been on many trips, and just many since I've known you. Do you have a favorite trip that you've been on lately, or at all that is like this is the one trip that is going to be with me forever?
I mean, that Italy trip was pretty up there. I have also done Thailand. Before COVID, I did Thailand and I spent 10 days over there, which was life-changing.
Really?
It's not a destination I necessarily would have thought of going, but the opportunity presented itself. And so I went to Chiang Mai, Bangkok, and out to little islands called Koh Samui and Koh Phangan, which were absolutely beautiful properties. And it was such an amazing experience. It was a wellness focused trip because that's one of the areas that I specialize in is wellness. So again, on the incentive side, there are companies that are more fitness oriented. There's all sorts of options that can be done for incentive trips that focus on that too. But Thailand was definitely just amazing. The food, the culture, the people,
Mm-hmm.
it's just an amazing country and very affordable.
Really?
Interesting.
Because of the U.S. strength of the U.S. dollar. You can, if for those of people who have always wanted to stay at a Four Seasons, you could afford to stay at a Four Seasons over in Thailand.
Wow.
I'm curious, what are the crazier trips that someone might have asked you to plan?
Oh, good question.
Crazy. It's not really a trip per se as it is the craziest thing I've been asked. Crazy trip. I mean, last minute stuff comes up, and I know this doesn't necessarily answer the question, but the craziest thing I've been asked to help with was I had a client who I've been working with this family for years, and they're very adventurous. And we planned this really wonderful last minute trip to Ireland back in June. And I had to find a place for her daughter to get a rabies shot.
Oh.
While she was on vacation.
Ooh.
Overseas?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
In Ireland, yeah. The daughter, right before the trip, had been exposed potentially to a bat and potential rabies. So that's a series of shots that has to be given in a certain order.
Yep.
Right.
And the last of the shots was when they were going to be in Ireland. So thankfully, I have an amazing network, and we were able to get her the shot on the day she was supposed to have it and squeeze it in between. They got back from their Isle of Arran tour, had to go over to the clinic, got the shot, and we made it all happen. But I will say that's probably the most outrageous. And in terms of trips, I need a little bit more time to think about that because...
You've had a few.
Yeah, I mean...
Well, I've been around. I have to say, I've been halfway around the world, right? So I lived in Zambia, and then if you go halfway around the world, it's Fiji. So I've been to Fiji a few times, and then everywhere in between. But I've never been to the backside. I've never been to, the Orient, to Japan. I've never been anywhere on that side. I've only been to this kind of like front. I've been to England, Ireland, all that stuff. But what I love to do when I travel is I like to find local cuisines. I like to find. I mean, you mentioned that you're part of the magazine that does food travels. Like, I mean, how often does that happen? How often do you plan a trip and the focus of the trip is just cuisine, or at least weave that into the trip?
Yeah, so I actually did a trip this year for a client, and it was Fiji, New Zealand, Australia.
Wow.
And they're very big foodies. So I reached out not only to my on-site, like I was mentioning, and just to also kind of I didn't realize I didn't mention this, but an on-site is someone who only works with the travel trade. So they are local, like feet on the street. But if you were to call them, they don't work with the public. They only work with travel professionals for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But so I reached out to them because they have some local knowledge, but I also reached out to my network because having the connections that I have in the publishing world and whatnot, reaching out to say, what's the best street food? What's the best restaurant for fine dining? What's the best place to get a burger? And then I create a list of restaurants and then provide those to the clients. And then we do make reservations for them so they don't have to deal with that either.
Nice.
If necessary.
Bucket list trip. You had to plan your bucket list trip. Do you have one? Are you working on a goal towards one or?
Yeah. So there's, that's the thing is it really, being in this industry, the bucket list constantly increases.
Yeah.
I'd love to be able to go spend like a week in Greece and just do all the islands that are not, yes, I would see Mykonos and Santorini, but to go to Milos or, there's so many different little islands, Naxos, Paros, that are now becoming popular. But just to really spend some time and spend some time on a boat and go through Greece. And then I'm a Scotland specialist. I do a lot of like luxury golf as well. And there's an opportunity to do like a little kind of boat cruise where you go island hopping on the west coast of Scotland and you stop at different islands and you can tailor it to your liking. So if you want to just do different whiskey distilleries, you can do that. But Ruby, the sea eagle, she is trained to catch your fish for you. And then you do a glamping experience where you just take a hot shower. It's very luxurious. The chef cooks your fish. You have a nice meal, but you get to see the wildlife. And you do spend a night, in hotels. You really just kind of use the boat to go on all these different islands. But that's one of the things that's really on my bucket list to go back and do when I am in Scotland one day.
So when you travel, would you have a preference of traveling by yourself or with a large group?
I would say I'm not even a small group, really.
I didn't offer that as a choice.
No.
You got
by yourself for sure. By
really?
yourself, yeah.
And why do you say that?
Because I feel like you're able to kind of customize it to what you really want, and you can, if you are someone who wants to meet people, you can set it up where you're doing things with others.
Sure.
But sometimes like the large group stuff, you're not able to deviate. You have to stick to their schedule. So if you're a person that really wants that kind of thing, but sometimes you don't know till you get there. Like you get to a location and you might like learn about something and go, I would like to go over here. And if you're with a large group, that has to be managed accordingly. You're not going to get to do that.
Yeah, it may not even be an option. Sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of compromise when you're dealing with other bodies, other people there.
Yes,
so, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So we have a mutual friend, Nigel, who has traveled with your services before. And one of the things that he kind of touted on is you mentioned that you do everything. They just kind of helped at the beginning. But managing the flights and the reservations and the itinerary, you have an app or that you give people. So tell us about that a little bit. Just like how when I'm on a trip that you've provided, what am I looking at?
So I subscribe to a itinerary software called Travify. And what it does is it allows me to build a proposal for a client to show them, hey, this is what I'm thinking, and show them the costs. But then it turns into an itinerary. And so that provides all of the details that they can just use right off their phone. And it provides all of their receipts. So if they look up their flights, they'll see the receipt for their flight in there. It has a little paper clip and you can view that. Any confirmations, if they do travel insurance, I can put a copy of their travel insurance policy in there. Any train tickets can be in there as well. Any particular vouchers if they need to show it. So it organizes it all into one place. And then it even monitors their flights in real time. So if the flight is delayed, it actually not only notifies the client, but it also notifies me. So I know that the flight is delayed, and then I can check their transfer because, if they're going to be landing at 9 a.m. in Europe and they have a booked transfer and their flight's going to be delayed till 11, well, the transfer company's only allowed to, they only stay for about an hour and then they move on to the next. So it allows me to sort of get ahead of things and be able to reschedule the transfer, hopefully, and push it back. But it's really great for clients because they can just access everything off their phone. And it even has a feature that if they are not going to have service internationally, it has a little radio button that allows them to still have access to everything on their phone offline. And then I also put in restaurant recommendations. There's things to do, maybe off the beaten path, like things in Rome, for example, that are hidden or, that are maybe not the typical sites. I can put all that in there, and clients actually tell me I usually read that on the plane on the way over. I look at all that kind of stuff to do. So it's really a treasure trove of information.
Yeah,
right
I can
at
see
their
where that would be a
fingertips.
value. Absolutely.
Yeah, lead with that because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's good.
And is that something that only the travel agents can subscribe to, or is that something
Correct.
so that's
Yeah.
a resource that only through you guys?
Yes.
Very
Yep.
cool. Well, Paula, this is great. Have we missed anything?
Not that I can think
Man,
of.
Fabulous. Well, listen, how can people get a hold of you if they want to do some cool travel experiences?
So I do have a website. It's theartoftravelcompany.com. Or they can email me simply at paula@theartoftravelcompany.com. And I'd be happy to, speak with anyone.
Excellent. Well, good deal. Thank you for being here. I find it fabulous to kind of learn about people's background. I didn't know you did all those things. And like I said before, what you've done in the past has really molded why you are such a great travel advisor now. So thank you for being here. Thank you for your
thanks
service.
for taking the time.
And can't wait to see you. I'm going to see you again tomorrow. So
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you again for having me.
You bet. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Another great show. We'd like to thank you for listening to the Hole in the Wall Business Podcast with Bill and James. We'd love for you to join our Facebook group and keep the conversation going. If you'd like to learn more about us and our business, check us out at holeinthewall.com. If you'd like to learn more about how to start a Hole in the Wall franchise, go to holeinthewallfranchising.com.